Hello and welcome back. In this episode we're going to take these printouts and use those to make some kind of marsh or swamp tiles. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing we'll need to do is print out the water texture and cut that roughly to size. And as you can see, for my own tiles I'm going to be making them 7 inches square. Then we'll need to take some double corrugated card or foam core or similar, and we're going to glue the water pattern on top and weigh it down with a heavy book so that it dries nice and flat. And when it has dried, we can then cut it to size using a sharp knife and a metal ruler. It's the same thing you've seen me do lots of times before. Okay, next we'll print out the land texture, and for this next part I like to use those decorative scissors that I've used in some of the other projects. And we'll need to use something like that to cut out a little island almost, and I'm not sure if it's very clear in the video, but when doing this I do try to follow the edges of the various weeds, if that makes sense. So there you go, something like that. Next we'll take a piece of regular corrugated card and we're just going to trace a line around the little island piece, which is what you can see me doing here. But it's not all that clear on screen, so I'll just go over it again with a Sharpie so that you can see it a bit better, and then we'll draw another line roughly 1/4 of an inch inside the first one. There you go. And once that's done, we're just going to cut out that inner shape with a sharp pair of scissors. Okay, so now we're going to need to kind of bevel the edges, so that the whole thing doesn't look quite so flat. And an easy way to do this is to take the handle of some small scissors and simply run that around the edge a few times. I'm not sure how best to explain it, but hopefully you can see what I'm doing in the video. But yeah, we're just looking to squash the very edge of the corrugated card. Anyway, that's that done. And now all we'll need to do is take the land texture, apply plenty of glue to the back, stick the beveled side of the cardboard on top of that, and apply some more glue to the cardboard itself. And then we can stick the whole thing on top of the water tile, making sure to align the 2 grids as best as we can. And with any luck, that should result in this kind of thing. Though you can of course make these little islands in various shapes and sizes, so here's another quick example, but this time I've added a few more areas of dry land. And that's pretty much it for the tiles themselves, and on their own they do look a little bit dull, so the next thing we're going to do is make some scatter terrain to go on top. Okay, for the first of these we're going to print this pattern to one side of a sheet of paper, and this pattern on the other side, though we do need to make sure that we get things the right way up, so that we have the same colour texture on both sides. Then we can cut a circle around each of these kind of weird spiky shapes, like you can see with these 3 pieces that I've done here. And for the purpose of this tutorial, I'll just use the largest one, as that's probably going to be the one where you can see things a bit more clearly. Right then, the first thing we'll need to do is fold the piece in half, open it back out, and then do the same thing in the opposite direction, as this is going to be important later on, but it's just easier to do this now. Then we're just going to cut away all of the excess, so that we're just left with our stylised sun shape in the middle. And it is a bit of a laborious process, but I did time this one and the whole thing only took 2.5 minutes. Though, obviously, that's going to start to add up if you're making lots of them. Anyway, next we'll use those folds that we made at the beginning to help form the solid piece in the middle into a cross shape, like you can see here. And then we can kind of squash and twist the bottom of that cross together, which should help to make the whole thing look a bit like a tuft of long grass. And if I quickly fan out the blades a little bit, this is the effect that we're going for. It's fairly simple stuff, and all we'll need to do then is make a few more. Okay, now for a base for these, we can glue some of the gridless textures to some thick card, and then just cut out a few different shapes and make them however big you like. And for the purpose of this example, I'm just going to use one with a water pattern that's also around 1 inch in diameter. However, before I glue any of these tufts into place, I first like to trim off the little pointed end, just so that there's a bigger contact area between it and the base. But other than that, it's just a simple matter of hot gluing them down. So there you go, and when you're doing this, don't worry too much about squashing the blades of grass together. We can sort that out later on. Anyway, here I am gluing a few more into place, just using different sizes and different colours to give it some variety. So yeah, here's how it looks at this stage, and all we'll need to do now is bend some of the blades of grass back into a more realistic shape. Sometimes I'll use my finger, other times a toothpick, and in the end it should end up looking like this. And if I bring in one of the floor tiles, here's how it looks when it's placed on top of one of those. So yeah, that's how we can make a few grass tufts. Right then, for this next piece we'll need to print out this pattern, and to begin with we'll cut out a strip that's 3 or 4 inches wide. We don't really need to be too exact. And then we'll cut that strip in half along the diagonal. Then I like to take a barbecue skewer and wrap the piece around that, just to get it started, after which I'll try and roll the longer end together as tightly as possible. Hopefully you can see the kind of thing that I mean on the screen. Next we can apply some glue to the back, though I do tend to avoid the part that I've just wound up tightly. And then it's just a matter of rolling this up into a long thin cone, and you don't need to worry if it's not tightly wound near the bottom. It actually works a bit better if it isn't, to be honest, and all we really want is a sharp point at the very end. So something like you can see here. Then, while it's still wet, we'll also need to kind of twist and bend it so that it looks a bit like a small twig that you might find out in the garden, as this larger piece is eventually going to form the trunk of a creepy looking tree. So there you go, and all we'll need to do now is give that plenty of time to dry, like an hour or so, after which it should dry nice and hard. However, we will need to make quite a few of these, in various sizes, like those that you can see on the screen right now. Right then, for the assembly, it's just a matter of cutting off the bottom of one of the longer pieces, i.e. one that's going to be acting as the trunk, just so that it will sit flat on a base. And then we can start trimming a few branches to size and gluing those into place. So I'll leave this part running while I'm doing just that, and as you can see I'm actually using a tiny spot of super glue to hold the branches in place, just because I think it gives them a better bond. But yeah, it's a fairly simple process, you know, just make something that looks a bit like a dead tree. Okay then, so when that's finished, we should end up with something that looks like this. As I say, it's nothing too complicated. Anyway, to finish it off, all we'll need to do is glue it to a base, and in this example, I'm also going to give it a little friend. So here's how it looks so far. Though I am also going to add some of the long grass to this one, just to really bulk it out, you know, so that it's possible that something could be hiding in there. And again, I'll leave the video running while I'm doing that. And there you go. There's the finished piece. I probably should have made the trunk a little bit taller on the main tree, as it is getting a bit lost in the grass, but you get the idea. Anyway, if I switch to a picture of some of these pieces in action, so to speak, then you can see the kind of thing that we can achieve with these. And on the whole, I'm quite happy with the results. So yeah, that's it for this one. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you could do me a favour and give the video a thumbs up if you've liked it, then that would be appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.